Hey there, my name is James Lee. Welcome to my channel 5149, where I talk business, politics, and society. And today we're going to talk about the fatal consequences of corporate greed and the sometimes complicit media. Specifically, I'm going to discuss the tragic events that took place at a Kentucky candle factory that was destroyed last week in a tornado with numerous fatalities. The morning after the tornado hit, ABC News interviewed the CEO of Mayfield Consumer Products in front of quite a dramatic backdrop of the company's factory that had been leveled by the tornado.
We are joined now by Troy Propst, the CEO of the candle factory, where dozens are feared dead here in Mayfield. First of all, thank you so much for joining us during this time. Our hearts and prayers are certainly with you and your employees. Of course, the governor described yesterday that it would be a miracle if any additional people were found alive inside the factory. Anything that gives you hope at this point?
Well, I guess we had two miracles yesterday afternoon because they did find two additional people. I do agree with the governor that I do believe it's a miracle. This devastation is unimaginable, and I do believe that it's amazing the amount of lives that have been saved with such devastation around us.
Of course, you guys have set up this emergency relief fund. How much have you raised? What will it go toward? And how can people contribute?
Well, I got to tell you, we've had so much unbelievable support from not only locally, and this is a resilient town, but from around the world. And a lot of the employees have no homes to go to, kids that aren't going to be able to have a Christmas tree, and we're going to do everything in our power as a family and as a company and as a community to make sure that they can do the best that they can.
Troy Propst, again, our thanks to you. We so appreciate it. Know you're already making plans to rebuild.
From this interview, which I would say was quite favorable to the CEO and his company, you have the devastation in the background, the impression that this was tragic but unavoidable, all the cliches, prayers, miracles, resilience, yada yada, paints him in quite a positive light. But sometimes the media, especially TV news, kind of misses the mark due to, I think, their usual preference of not wanting to challenge any sort of power and resorting to making it kind of like a dramatic search and rescue story instead. But this is a story of power and negligence, because very quickly it became clear that this tragedy, which took the lives of 8 people, was totally avoidable if it weren't for corporate greed. Michaela Emery said in an interview from her hospital bed that workers first asked to leave shortly after tornado sirens sounded outside the factory around 5:30 p.m. If you leave, you're more than likely to be fired, Emery said. She overheard managers tell 4 workers standing near her who wanted to leave. I heard that with my own ears. About 15 people asked to go home during the night shift shortly after the first emergency alarm sounded outside the facility, said another employee, Haley Condor. Elijah Johnson, who was working in the back of the building when several employees wanting to head home walked in to speak with supervisors. He joined in on the request. Quote, I asked to leave and they told me I'd be fired, Johnson said. Even with weather like this, you're still going to fire me, he asked. Yes, a manager responded, Johnson told NBC News. Johnson said managers went so far as to take a roll call in hopes of finding out who had left work. This is some pretty effed up stuff, but for the sake of reporting this properly, I must also include that company officials denied the allegations. But come on, this definitely happened. Not only because multiple employees have given the same corroborating testimony, but this behavior from management completely aligns with the incentive structure we have in place, which is more or less along the lines of profits aren't everything, they're the only thing. People, we can always find more of those. The candle factory had been going 24/7 to meet Christmas time demand. Then the storm hit. Let's go, people need their candles. The candle factory was hiring, advertising 10-hour and 12-hour shifts that started at $8 an hour, 75 cents more than minimum wage. The afternoon shift began at 5 p.m. Mandatory overtime will be required frequently, either by extending your shift or working on Friday, the company told potential job applicants. In 2019, the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration inspected the candle factory and issued a report identifying 12 violations, 7 of them labeled as, quote, serious, carrying a total of $16,350 in fines. Also this year, Mayfield Consumer Products convinced an appellate court to uphold the dismissal of a civil rights lawsuit filed by Armando Rivera Hernandez, a laborer whom the company recruited in Puerto Rico. Hernandez said he was fired for being overweight after the company's chief financial officer sent out a text message stating, quote, we are working diligently to clean up the epileptic, obese, pregnant, and special needs issues. So there you go. You kind of get a sense of what the company is all about. But I do have a feeling that there is going to be this cohort of people who might feel like this is all sort of justified, like this is a business. It has an obligation to fill orders. Kind of sucks that this happened, but what are they going to do? Give up the opportunity to do what they're supposed to do, which is to make money. And I guess that is a philosophy, but in my opinion, in order to have a functioning, harmonious society, there does need to be some balance between people and profits. Because as income inequality widens and power becomes even more concentrated at the top, there undoubtedly is going to be a higher possibility of violence, which can be very destabilizing for society. Such is the case in Chile a few years ago, where a 4-cent metro fare price hike sparked huge unrest, with thousands of people in Chile taking to the streets to protest against the government. Right? It's not necessarily about the 4 cents, but rather about a population pushed to the breaking point, where the richest 1% of the population earns 33% of the nation's wealth, making Chile the most unequal member of the OECD. This isn't meant to be any kind of doomsday prediction or anything, but I do think we could start to see more and more of this here if people are continually feeling like they're being pushed to the brink and have few other choices to voice their grievances. And this is a part of why I talk so much about unions, because despite some shortcomings of unions, like a fellow viewer rightly pointed out in the comments of my last video, situations like union bosses siphoning money and whatnot, collective bargaining is still one of the few realistic chances available for the working class to tip the scales from capital to labor. Right? Think about it. Companies would probably welcome unions with open arms if they were, in fact, ineffective. Remember, these people only think and see dollar signs. The fact is, while union enrollment has declined for decades, union workers still earn 19% more. The BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, reports that on average in 2019, union workers earned roughly $1,095 per week, while non-union workers earned closer to $892. Put it another way, non-union workers made just 81 cents for every dollar union workers made. And in this particular instance with the candle factory situation, maybe even more important than pay, unions create solidarity among workers and gives them more collective bargaining power. Like, yes, it's true that everyone has agency and could have chosen to leave or not show up at all in a tornado, but it's really not that easy if management and executives hold most, if not all, of the power and can threaten your job on a whim. Quote, unions have fought for generations to force companies to take safety seriously. Under capitalism, a dead worker is nothing more than a small debit on a company's ledger. Companies do not allow worker safety to impinge on their all-important profits unless they are absolutely required to. Unions are the thing that require them to. The workers who died this week had no unions. They had inadequate protections at work, and now they're gone. And that's the truth. The CEO who was interviewed, he was incentivized to keep his factory up and running, Christmas time demand, despite forecasts of extreme weather. And beyond just paying some lip service, his job really isn't to care about the workers, it's to make money. I mean, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong about wanting to make more money, but if it literally drives everything to the point that people's lives are just numbers on a ledger, it can make for a pretty terrible society. Anyway, those are my thoughts for the week. What about yours? I'm obviously pretty pro-union because I think they're essential in restoring some semblance of balance between capital and labor. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. And hey, I was able to squeeze in one last video. Like I said at the end of my last video, I'm moving, so this is the last of this studio, if you can call this corner of my bedroom a studio. But hey, I like it, and I appreciate the love from the folks who support it. Anyway, like I was saying, the next month or two will be a bit transitory for me, so I'll try to do my best to squeeze in a video here and there. But if you want to support my work, please click on that like button, share this video, consider subscribing, and if you feel inclined, click on that notification bell icon so you can be the first to watch each week. And as always, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.